Gnaw, Food of the Gods 2 has the best line in any movie I've ever seen, ever.
Bobby, I want you to meet my colleague, Dr. Hamilton.
And I'd like you to get the out of here.
And that's all within the first 5 minutes. How can they top that? First things first, we meet Dr. Neil Hamilton. He's a scientist doing research on plants, and he gets a very important phone call from a colleague. He drops everything to go and help her out. This is where we meet Bobby, and yeah, he's huge. It turns out that this kid has a growth deficiency, so Dr. Travis used an experimental hormone on him, and well, this is the result. Not only did he grow to be a giant, but his attitude changed as well. Before, he was a sweet, innocent boy, but now, as we've seen, he's not. Dr. Travis asked for Neil's help, and he thinks that with time, he can find a cure. Another scientist, Edmund, is trying to find a cure for cancer. Well, at least that's what he says. In reality, he's trying to find a cure for baldness. He's just a prick, and you know that eventually he's gonna get what he has coming. And, well, that night he does. Some animal rights activists break into his lab and trash it. And I mean trash it. They wreck everything, ruining months of research. This is quite the setback, so he asks for a little help from Hamilton. I guess they're both researching the same thing, but Hamilton's doing it with plants. Anyway, he refuses because his new project is just taking all of his time. Edmund isn't happy, but what else can he do? All this does is start a little feud between coworkers. Are you ready for a montage? Yeah, you know this is an 80s movie. You gotta have a rockin' montage. Hamilton works with Dr. Travis's growth hormone and in the end is able to grow softball-sized tomatoes in only a few hours. His assistant thinks about all the money and, to a lesser extent, all the good that something like this could do for the world. Much like the first movie, this would end world hunger. But Hamilton's only concerned with one thing: fixing Bobby. Being pressed for time, the doctor's forced to start experimenting on animals. So he injects one rat with the hormone and, well, yeah, it grows. What'd you expect? Meanwhile, the other rats feast on the giant tomatoes, which will eventually make them huge too. That night, the activists come back and decide to wreck Hamilton's lab this time. And, well, that was a big mistake. They try to get a picture of the giant rat, but it freaks out, busting out of its cage and releasing all the others. The kids take off like a rat out of hell and, well, this one guy isn't gonna make it. The big rat gets him, and the others escape out the window. So now we have a bunch of bloodthirsty giant rats roaming the streets. And that's not good. They attack and kill a bunch of people, and most of this movie is just that. Rats killing people. It's a good thing they didn't experiment on bears or an elephant or something like that. Although, that would be pretty cool to see a kaiju elephant knocking down a few buildings. Nothing really important happens until the very end. Edmund gets a hold of some of the hormone and starts doing his own experiments with it. He's trying to cure baldness, so he takes some cells from a dog, mixes it with the hormone, and well, it doesn't work out so well for him. Some of it gets in his bloodstream, and it's not long before it's all over for him. Too bad too, because Hamilton just found a cure. His main concern is getting it to Bobby and helping him, but just then all the rats attack, and you'll never guess what they do. They go through the sewers and make it all the way into this pool. Really? How is this possible? Rats this size wouldn't fit into the pipes. If the pipes were that big, all the water would drain out faster than they could fill it up. Plus, a pool is a closed system, not usually directly connected to a sewer. Well, anyway, it makes for an entertaining rat attack. Everyone's running all around as the overgrown rodents start picking people off. Eventually, the police come and people steal their guns and start shooting other people. How can you miss this badly? In the end, they lead all the rats into a courtyard and start blasting. And man, they just don't stop until every last rat is dead. In the final scene, Bobby's now huge. He kills Dr. Travis and then makes his escape. So, did anything top that scene from the beginning? Well, no, not even close. Gnaw, Food of the Gods 2 is a sequel in name only to the original, and it ends up being more of a reimagining. I guess they were planning on getting Burt I. Gordon to come back to direct this, but that fell through. So, in its place, we got this. And don't get me wrong, it's not a bad movie, but I certainly don't see it winning any awards. The effects were pretty good, to be fair. Bobby and the rats all looked great. There were times you could tell it was just superimposed, but overall it was much better than the first Food of the Gods. Even the practical gore effects on all the dead bodies looked pretty good, I thought, overall. Some shots were really atmospheric. It's always dark and foggy when they're outside, but unfortunately, most of this movie takes place in a lab, which I just don't find too scary. There's a lot of goofs as well, like this scene where the boom mic's in the shot, or this part where you can clearly see the effects guy pumping white goo into Edmund. It's really obvious. The acting was hit or miss, and there were some things that just didn't make sense, like how'd the rats get into the pool? But even so, Gnaw, Food of the Gods 2 is a good time if you can turn your brain off. I give it 2 giant swearing bobbies out of 4.
You got a light?